6 months after the ultimatum, the galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Coalition still existed, but it no longer made demands or threats. The various alien species still traded with each other, explored new worlds, and developed their technologies. But the power structure had changed completely. Ambassador So Young sat in the reformed Galactic Council chambers aboard Nexus Prime. She represented humanity in their first official diplomatic session since the revelation. The chamber looked the same, but everything felt different. The chair where Supreme Chancellor Ixtar used to sit was empty. The giant insectoid had resigned in shame after the failed ultimatum, along with most of the Coalition's military leadership. In his place sat a council of representatives from all species, including humans. The trade agreement between the Thornax and Nebulons has been approved, So Young announced, reading from her tablet. Both species will benefit from shared technology transfers. It was a routine matter, the kind of thing that happened every day now. But 6 months ago, such agreements had required Coalition approval and often involved threats or bribes. The new system was simpler. Species negotiated directly with each other. Disputes were settled by discussion rather than military force. The humans participated as equals, not as overlords or subjects. Captain Haiwan no longer commanded the disguised frigate Soul's Pride. Her new ship was the battlecruiser New Soul, a vessel that openly displayed its military capabilities. She patrolled the border regions between human and alien space. But not as an aggressor. Her mission was protection. Captain, her communications officer reported, "We are receiving a distress signal from a Zephyllite cargo convoy. They are under attack by raiders. Set course to intercept," Haiwan ordered immediately. Full speed. The raiders were a group of criminals from a species called the Vorthak. They had preyed on peaceful cargo ships for years. Under the old Coalition system, stopping them required filing reports, requesting permission, and waiting for bureaucratic approval. Often, the victims were dead by the time help arrived. Under the new system, any ship capable of helping simply did so. The New Soul arrived at the attack site in minutes. The Vorthak raiders saw the human battlecruiser and immediately tried to flee. Their ships were fast, but human technology was faster. "Attention Vorthak vessels," Captain Haiwan broadcast. "You are engaging in illegal attacks on civilian shipping. Surrender now or face the consequences." The raiders opened fire instead. The battle lasted 30 seconds. When it ended, the Vorthak ships were disabled and drifting helplessly. Their crews were alive, but their vessels would not move. "Zephyllite convoy, this is Captain Haiwan of the human ship New Soul. Are you injured?" "No injuries, thank you," came the grateful reply. "You arrived just in time." Captain Haiwan arranged for Coalition security forces to collect the raiders while her medical team checked the Zephyllite crew for injuries. It was routine work now, but it represented something important. The galaxy was safer than it had been in generations. Dr. Minho had returned to his academic career, but now he worked openly with researchers from many species. His latest paper on ancient defensive technologies was being studied by scientists across the galaxy. The difference was that now he shared his findings freely instead of keeping them secret. "The energy patterns suggest these ruins are at least 50,000 years old," he explained to a mixed group of human and alien graduate students. "The species that built them understood principles of physics that we are only beginning to discover." A young Krillian student raised one of her 4 arms. "Dr. Minho, could these technologies be dangerous in the wrong hands?" "Any technology can be dangerous," he replied honestly. "That is why we study them together, so no one species gains an unfair advantage." It was a new approach to scientific research. Instead of each species hoarding knowledge for military advantage, they pooled their discoveries for everyone's benefit. Engineer Su Jin continued working in shipyards, but now she built vessels for a cooperative galactic community. The ships she designed incorporated the best technologies from multiple species. Human engines powered by Zephyllite energy systems, protected by Thornax armor and guided by Nebulon navigation computers. The test flight was successful, she reported to a mixed group of engineers. "The new design is 30% more efficient than previous models." The engineers, human, Krillian, Zephyllite, and others, cheered together. They were no longer competitors trying to gain advantages over each other. They were colleagues working toward common goals. Admiral Kyo-min stood in his office aboard Deep Station Alpha, looking out at a view that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Human and alien ships worked together in the station's docking bays. Engineers from different species collaborated on joint projects. Children from various worlds attended the same schools. "Admiral," his aide announced, "the representatives are here for the meeting." The meeting was informal, nothing like the tense confrontations of the past. Representatives from all major species gathered monthly to discuss common concerns and coordinate responses to problems. Today's agenda included dealing with a plague outbreak on the frontier, organizing relief for refugees from a natural disaster, and planning joint exploration missions to distant galaxies. "Thank you all for coming," Admiral Kyomin said as the representatives took their seats around a circular table. No one sat at the head of the table because no one was in charge of everyone else. The Zephyllite representative, a blue-skinned female named Aqualin, spoke first. "The medical supplies for the plague outbreak have been prepared. Our ships can deliver them within 2 days. The Thornax fleet will provide security escorts," added their representative, a warrior named Battleclaw. "No pirates will threaten the medical ships." The Krillian delegate offered the use of their fastest courier ships to spread information about treatments. The Nebulans volunteered their atmospheric processors to help clean contaminated air on the affected worlds. Each species contributed what they did best. No one was forced to participate, but everyone wanted to help. "What about the exploration mission to the Andromeda Galaxy?" asked the human representative. Admiral Kyomin smiled. "Preliminary surveys suggest there may be other intelligent species there. If we work together, we can reach them peacefully instead of as competitors." The idea of joint exploration missions would have been impossible under the old coalition system. Each species had jealously guarded their star charts and kept their discoveries secret. Now they shared information freely, knowing that discoveries benefited everyone. Lieutenant Commander Wanbin stood on the observation deck of the Unified Defense Station, a massive structure that served as headquarters for the new Galactic Security Force. Ships from dozens of species docked at the station regularly. He watched a human destroyer dock next to a Zephyllite cruiser. Their crews would work together on joint patrols, protecting trade routes and responding to emergencies. The sight still amazed him. A young officer joined him at the viewing window. She was a Krillian who had graduated from the integrated military academy that trained officers from all species together. "Commander Wanbin," she said, "do you ever regret how things changed?" Wanbin considered the question carefully. Do I regret that we are no longer enemies? I mean, do you regret that humans gave up their advantage? You could have ruled the galaxy." Wanbin shook his head. "Rule implies that others are your subjects. We never wanted subjects. We just wanted to be free." The young Krillian looked puzzled. "But you had such power. You could have taken anything you wanted." "We did take what we wanted," Wanbin replied with a smile. "We wanted peace. We wanted safety for our families. We wanted to explore the universe without fear. We have all of those things now." He gestured at the ships working together outside the window. "This is better than any empire we could have built." The silence that had followed humanity's revelation was not the silence of fear or defeat. It was the silence of understanding. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. True strength was not about the ability to conquer others. It was about the wisdom to help others become strong too. On worlds throughout the galaxy, children of different species played together. Scientists shared discoveries freely. Artists created works that incorporated styles from multiple cultures. Traders conducted business based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. The predatory species that had once raided peaceful worlds found new purposes. Some became security forces protecting trade routes. Others used their skills to explore dangerous regions of space. A few even became teachers, sharing their knowledge of survival and tactics with others. The galaxy had entered an age of cooperation that no one had thought possible. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to watch and protect, not as rulers or conquerors, but as guardians who had learned the most important lesson of all. The strongest civilizations are those that lift others up, instead of keeping them down. The moment humanity had revealed its true military power, everything had changed. But the most important change was not in the balance of military strength. It was in the understanding that peace was more powerful than any weapon. The defeat of the coalition fleet sent shockwaves across the galaxy. On 12 different worlds, emergency meetings were called. Defense fleets that had been spread across space were recalled to protect homeworlds. Military commanders who had been confident just days before now looked at their star maps with fear. But the strangest thing was what happened next. The humans did not attack. Captain Yunji commanded the exploration vessel Daegu Pioneer as it approached the Zephyllite homeworld of HFY. The planet was covered in deep oceans where the fish-like Zephyllites lived in underwater cities. They had been among the loudest voices calling for human surrender. The Zephyllite defense fleet moved to intercept the single human ship. 50 vessels surrounded the Daegu Pioneer, their weapons powered and ready to fire. "Human vessel," came the transmission from the Zephyllite commander. "You are not welcome here. Leave our space immediately or we will destroy you." Captain Yunji did not run. She did not fight. Instead, she did something that confused the Zephyllites completely. She sent them a gift. "Zephyllite commanders," she broadcast, "I am transmitting data that might interest you." The data package that arrived on every Zephyllite ship contained something that should have been impossible to obtain. It held the complete technical specifications of every Zephyllite military vessel, defense grid layouts, the locations of secret bases, strategic weakness analyses, even personal files on Zephyllite military leaders, information that should have taken decades of espionage to gather. "How do you have this?" the Zephyllite commander demanded. "We have been watching and learning for a very long time," Captain Yunji replied calmly. "We know the number of ships in your reserve fleet. We know which of your officers are having affairs with their subordinates. We know that your defense grid has a 17-second gap in coverage every time your planet rotates past its largest moon." The Zephyllite ships stopped moving. Their crews stared at the data in horror. The humans knew everything about them. Every secret, every weakness, every hidden strength. "The question is," Captain Yunji continued, "what should we do with this knowledge?" Before the Zephyllites could answer, she turned her ship around and left their system. Lieutenant Commander Wanbin led similar missions to 7 other coalition worlds. The pattern was always the same. A single human ship would arrive. The local defense forces would try to intercept it. Then the humans would reveal how much they knew about that species. The Krillians received detailed maps of their underground hive cities. The Thornax got analyses of their warrior culture's honor codes and how to exploit them. The gas-dwelling Nebulons found out that humans had been secretly listening to their private communications for 15 years. Each revelation was followed by the same question: what should we do with this knowledge? Then the human ships would leave without firing a shot. On the coalition capital world of Nexus Major, Supreme Chancellor Ixtar called an emergency meeting of the Planetary Defense Council. The giant insectoid leader's usual confidence was gone. His metal voice sounded tired and defeated. "Report," he ordered his intelligence chief. "Sir, human ships have visited all 12 coalition homeworlds. In each case, they have demonstrated detailed knowledge of our military capabilities, our government structures, and our personal secrets. How is this possible? We believe they have had agents among us for decades, possibly longer." Chancellor Ixtar's 4 compound eyes moved independently as he processed this information. "How many of our trusted allies might be human spies?" "We do not know, sir. That is what makes this so terrifying." The paranoia spread quickly. On SciFiPrime, the government began questioning everyone who had worked with Dr. Minho. On the shipyard world of Nexus Beta, Engineer Sujin's former colleagues were arrested and interrogated, but it was too late. The damage was done. The humans had already learned everything they needed to know. Admiral Kyomin stood in the command center of Deep Station Alpha, watching holographic displays that showed the entire galaxy. Red dots marked coalition worlds. Green dots showed human territory. But the most important dots were blue. Those marked human agents who were still in place throughout coalition space. "Phase 2 complete," reported Intelligence Director Myung-hee. "All coalition species now understand the extent of our intelligence network." "Casualties?" asked the Admiral. "Still 0 on all sides. The coalition is beginning to realize this was never about conquest." "Good. Begin Phase 3. Phase 3 was the most delicate part of the operation. It required finesse rather than force. Dr. Minho, now back on Earth, sent a message to his former Zephyllite colleagues on HFY. It was a simple research paper about ancient defensive technologies he had discovered in the ruins, but embedded in the academic language was a clear message. These technologies could protect any species that used them properly. The paper was shared freely with all coalition species. It contained real, useful knowledge that could help them defend their worlds. But it also reminded them that humans had learned these lessons first. Engineer Su Jin published detailed technical manuals explaining how to improve spaceship engines and weapon systems. The improvements were genuine and would make coalition ships more effective. But the manuals also included subtle hints about even more advanced technologies that humans possessed. The message was clear. Humans were not trying to keep other species weak. They were offering to share knowledge and help everyone become stronger. But they would always stay one step ahead. On every coalition world, the same conversations were happening. Military leaders, government officials, and ordinary citizens asked the same questions. How long had the humans been watching them? How much did they really know? What did they want? The answer to the last question surprised everyone. Admiral Kyo Min called a meeting with representatives from all 12 coalition species. They met aboard Nexus Prime, in the same chamber where the ultimatum had been delivered weeks before. The alien representatives looked nervous and defeated. They had come expecting demands for surrender or tribute. Instead, Admiral Kyo Min offered them something they had not expected. Peace, he said simply. What are your terms? Asked the former Supreme Chancellor Ixtar, who had been replaced by a more moderate leader. No terms. We want peace. We always wanted peace. But we learned long ago that peace without strength is just a temporary ceasefire. Admiral Kyo Min activated a holographic display that showed the true extent of human capabilities. Hidden bases throughout the galaxy, sleeper agents in every coalition government, technology caches prepared for any emergency, a network of power and influence that spanned half the known universe. We could have revealed this at any time, he continued. We could have demanded tribute, territory, or submission. Instead, we chose to remain hidden until you forced our hand. The alien representative sat in stunned silence. The Zephylite delegate was the first to speak. Why? She asked, her translated voice barely a whisper. Admiral Kyo Min looked out at the stars visible through the station's crystal walls. Because the moment you reveal your true strength is the moment you become responsible for everything that happens afterward. We preferred to let you believe you were in charge. He turned back to them with eyes that held no anger, only sadness. But you threatened our people. You demanded our surrender. You left us no choice. The meeting ended in silence. The representatives returned to their homeworlds with a new understanding of the galaxy they lived in. Humanity had never wanted to rule anyone. They had just wanted to make sure that no one could rule them. The age of coalition dominance was over. Something new was beginning. The coalition fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum. 1,200 warships from 12 different species formed a battle line that stretched across millions of miles of space. Each ship was massive, bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. Admiral Varthek commanded the coalition fleet from his flagship, a Krillian dreadnought called Inevitable Victory. He was confident this would be an easy battle. His sensors showed only about 20 human ships defending Earth. Human vessels, he broadcast on all channels. You are outnumbered 60-1. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. The reply came from Admiral Jinne, commander of the Terran Home Fleet. Her voice was calm and steady. Coalition forces, you are trespassing in human space during a time of declared hostility. You have 30 seconds to withdraw, or we will consider your presence an act of war. Admiral Varthek's mandibles clicked together in amusement. The humans were bluffing. They had to be. Then his sensors officer made a sound of confusion. Sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. The readings are impossible. Explain, Varthek ordered. There are not 20 human ships, sir. There are 8,000. The coalition fleet watched in shock as space around them filled with human vessels. They appeared from behind asteroids, emerged from gas clouds, and materialized from what looked like empty space. Ships of every size, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts that rivaled the largest coalition vessels. The human fleet formed perfect battle formations with military precision that took Varthek's breath away. These were not the scared colonists he had expected to find. These were professional soldiers who had been waiting for this moment. Admiral Jinne stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Incheon Ascendant. The ship was so large it had its own artificial gravity that pulled asteroids toward it. Its weapon arrays could target 1,000 enemy ships at once. All ships report status, she ordered. Captain Tae-hyung of the destroyer Gwangju's Fury was the first to respond. Weapons charged and ready, Admiral. Target locks acquired. Similar reports came from every ship in the fleet. The humans were ready for battle, but Admiral Varthek still thought he had the advantage. Yes, the humans had more ships than expected, but coalition vessels were bigger and stronger. His 1,200 ships could still win this fight. All ships prepare to engage, he broadcast to his fleet. Show these humans the price of defying the coalition. The coalition fleet moved into their traditional attack formation. It was a pattern they had used to conquer dozens of worlds. Their biggest ships formed the center, with smaller vessels protecting the flanks. On the human flagship, Dr. Minho stood next to Admiral Jin-A. He had returned from coalition space just in time for the battle. They are using Formation 7, he reported, just as we expected. Admiral Jin-A smiled. Dr. Minho had spent years studying coalition military tactics. He knew their weaknesses better than their own commanders did. All ships, the Admiral broadcast, execute Pattern Omega. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for the next 1,000 years. The human fleet did not charge forward like most species would. Instead, they spread out in a complex pattern that looked like chaos but was actually carefully planned. Small, fast ships darted between the coalition battle line, too quick for the big guns to target. Meanwhile, the larger human vessels used weapons that the coalition had never seen before. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired something that looked like small black holes. These weapons bent space around them, making it impossible for coalition ships to dodge. Captain Tae-hyung's destroyer danced between 3 coalition cruisers, firing precisely aimed shots that disabled their engines without destroying them. His crew had trained for this exact scenario for 10 years. Target their command systems, he ordered his weapons officer. Disable, do not destroy. The human strategy became clear as the battle continued. They were not trying to kill their enemies. They were trying to capture them. Engineer Su-jin's sabotage began to take effect. Coalition ships that she had worked on started shutting down without warning. Their engines stopped. Their weapons powered down. Their communication systems went dead. What is happening to our ships? Admiral Varthek demanded. His engineering chief had no answer. The ships are operating normally, then they just stop working. It is like someone is turning them off with a switch. That was exactly what was happening. From her position aboard a human command ship, Su-jin was remotely disabling coalition vessels one by one. The battle that was supposed to last hours ended in 17 minutes. When it was over, the entire coalition fleet was floating helplessly in space. Their ships were undamaged but completely powerless. Their crews were alive, but trapped in vessels that would not obey their commands. Admiral Jinny opened communications to the coalition fleet. Coalition commanders, your vessels have been disabled using technology you installed yourselves. Your crews are unharmed. You will be transported to a secure location where you will be treated according to the laws of war. This is impossible, Admiral Varthek protested. How did you defeat us so easily? You made the mistake of thinking we were like you, Admiral Jinny replied. You thought we would reveal our strength the moment we had it. You thought we would want to conquer and rule, but humans are patient. We prefer to let our enemies defeat themselves. The coalition ships began disappearing one by one. They were not being destroyed. They were being transported using human technology that bent space and time. In minutes, the entire coalition fleet vanished. They reappeared in a vast holding area in the outer reaches of the solar system. Thousands of automated stations surrounded them, ready to provide food, water, and medical care. The coalition crews were prisoners, but they were comfortable prisoners. Communications officer Yeon Su aboard the Incheon Ascendant received reports from human fleets throughout the galaxy. Similar battles had taken place at every major coalition stronghold. The results were always the same. Coalition fleets would arrive expecting easy victories. They would find themselves outnumbered and outmatched by human forces that appeared from nowhere. Within minutes, their ships would be disabled and their crews captured. Not a single human or alien had been killed in any of the engagements. All coalition military forces have been neutralized. Yeon-su reported to Admiral Jin-A. Total casualties 0. The Admiral nodded. Send a message to all human commanders. Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2. Admiral Varthek, now a prisoner aboard his own powerless ship, managed to send one final message to Coalition High Command before his communications were permanently blocked. "The humans," he said, his voice full of shock and fear. "They are not what we thought they were. They are so much more than we ever imagined. God help us all." On every coalition world, military leaders stared at their screens in disbelief. In a single day, their entire combined fleet had been defeated without firing a single effective shot. The humans had not just won a battle. They had demonstrated that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely, and this was only the beginning. The coalition was about to learn that capturing their fleets had been the easy part. Now the humans were going to show them what real power looked like. Captain Boram had been flying cargo runs for 3 years. Every week she loaded her ship with mining equipment and food supplies. She flew from one human colony to another, delivering what people needed. Her ship, the Busan Runner, looked like any other merchant vessel in space. The hull was scratched and dented. The engines made strange noises. Sometimes the air recycling system broke down and everyone had to wear breathing masks. It was exactly the kind of old beat-up ship that Coalition inspectors ignored when they saw it. But when the activation signal reached her ship, everything changed. Boram went to her private cabin and locked the door. She opened a hidden panel behind her bed and pulled out a different uniform. This one was black with silver badges that showed her real rank, Colonel in the Terran Strategic Defense Corps. The Busan Runner was not a cargo ship. It was a mobile command center. Boram's fingers typed commands into a console that had been disguised to look like a simple entertainment system. The walls of her cargo hold slid away, revealing rows of military computers and communication equipment. Her crew of cargo handlers put down their loading tools and picked up weapons. "All stations prepare for combat operations," Boram announced. The waiting is over. Similar scenes were happening all across human space. The small mining station near Proxima Centauri suddenly sprouted weapon turrets from what everyone thought were storage containers. The research lab on Europa opened secret doors and launched fighter craft that had been hidden underground for 20 years. Lieutenant Hyunwoo stood in front of his geothermal power plant on New Jeju. The colonists had gathered around him, looking confused and worried. They had seen the energy readings on their instruments. They knew something was happening, but they did not understand what. "I need to tell you all something," Hyunwoo said. "This power plant is not what you think it is." He pressed a button on his control pad. The ground around the plant began to move. Metal panels slid away, revealing massive gun barrels that pointed up at the sky. The geothermal tubes that went deep into the planet were not just for collecting heat. They were part of a planetary defense grid. "This entire world is now a fortress," Hyunwoo explained to the shocked colonists. "We can protect you from any attack." One of the colonists, an old farmer named Mr. Park, stepped forward. "You have been lying to us this whole time?" "Yes," Hyunwoo said. "I am sorry for the deception, but it was necessary." "Why?" asked Mrs. Kim, who ran the local store. "Because the Coalition wants to take away our freedom. They want to control us. We could not let that happen." On the Coalition world of SciFiPrime, Dr. Minho was packing his research equipment. For 10 years he had been studying the ruins of an ancient civilization. The local Zephyllite government had welcomed him. They thought he was just a harmless scientist interested in old stones and metal. They were very wrong. Dr. Minho had not been studying ruins for fun. He had been learning everything he could about Zephyllite technology. He knew how their ships worked. He knew where their military bases were hidden. He knew the weak points in their defense systems. His research notes were actually detailed military intelligence reports. A Zephyllite official with blue skin and gills on his neck came to see him off. "We will miss your work here, Dr. Minho. Your discoveries about our ancestors have been very valuable." "Thank you," Minho replied politely. "I have learned much here, more than you know." The Zephyllite did not understand what he meant. High above the planet, a Coalition patrol ship detected a small human vessel leaving the system. The ship's captain, an insect-like Krillian, barely paid attention. Just another human scientist going home. Nothing important. But Dr. Minho's ship was not heading home. It was heading to a secret human base where his intelligence reports would be used to plan military operations against Coalition worlds. In the huge Coalition shipyard orbiting the planet Nexus Beta, Engineer Sujin was finishing her shift. For 5 years she had worked here, helping to build warships for the Coalition fleet. The alien engineers trusted her completely. She had improved their engine designs and made their weapons more powerful, or so they thought. Sujin walked through the massive construction bay where dozens of coalition warships were being built. Each ship was 3 times larger than any human vessel. Their hulls gleamed with new armor plating. Their weapon arrays could destroy entire cities, but hidden inside each ship, built into the engine systems and weapon controls, were tiny devices that Sujin had installed. The coalition engineers thought they were efficiency improvements. They were actually remote shutdown switches. When the time came, every coalition warship that Sujin had worked on could be disabled with a single signal. She sent a coded message from her personal communicator. All packages delivered. Quality control complete. Then she walked calmly to her small personal shuttle. The coalition guards at the shipyard entrance waved her through without checking her papers. She had been coming and going for years. They considered her a trusted worker. They had no idea that their entire fleet had been sabotaged. Back in human space, massive energy signatures were appearing everywhere. The coalition's long-range sensors were going crazy with warnings and alerts. Energy readings that should not exist were coming from human worlds. On the coalition capital world, military analysts stared at their screens in confusion. "This makes no sense," said General Vextar, a tall alien with 4 arms and crystal skin. "These energy signatures are bigger than anything we have ever seen. But we know the humans only have 300 ships. Could their sensors be malfunctioning?" asked his aide. "All of them? At the same time?" "No, something is happening in human space. Something we do not understand." Admiral Kyomin was no longer on Nexus Prime. His shuttle had returned him to human space, where he now stood on the bridge of a massive space station that officially did not exist. Deep Station Alpha was built inside a rogue planet that floated in the darkness between star systems. No coalition sensor had ever detected it. "Status report," he said to his intelligence chief. "A woman named Myung-hee. All assets are now active," she reported. "The concealment protocols have been dropped. We are at full military readiness." "How many ships do we actually have?" Kyomin asked. 47,832 combat vessels, plus support ships. That brings us to just over 50,000. The admiral nodded. The coalition thought humans had 300 ships. The real number was more than 50,000. "How long have we been preparing for this?" asked a young officer who had just been activated. 87 years, Admiral Kyomin replied. "Ever since we first met the coalition and realized what kind of galaxy we lived in. The coalition had made one terrible mistake. They had assumed that humans were like them, that they would reveal their true strength as soon as they had it. They had assumed that humans would want to conquer and dominate other species, but humans were different. Humans understood that the best weapon was one your enemy never knew you had. For nearly a century, humanity had been building ships in secret. They had been training soldiers who pretended to be farmers and merchants. They had been placing agents in coalition governments and militaries, and now finally, it was time to show the galaxy what humans could really do. The 72-hour deadline was almost up. The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. Its crystal walls stretched for miles in every direction, big enough to hold a small moon inside. Lights from hundreds of different alien ships blinked around it like fireflies. Inside the main meeting hall, 12 different alien species sat around a huge circular table. Each group looked nothing like the others. Some had scales that changed colors. Others breathed through gills that opened and closed on their necks. A few had too many arms or eyes in strange places. At one small table sat Admiral Kyomin, the only human in the room. His gray hair was cut short and neat. His blue uniform had simple badges on it. He looked calm, but his dark eyes watched everything. The leader of this meeting was called the Supreme Chancellor. It was a giant bug-like creature that stood 12 feet tall. Its voice came out like the sound of grinding metal when it spoke. "We are here because humanity has become a problem," the Chancellor said. Its 4 eyes looked directly at Kyomin. "Your species spreads too fast. You take too many planets. You refuse to share your technology with others." Murmurs filled the room. Different alien voices made clicking, buzzing, and whistling sounds. They were all agreeing with the Chancellor. A snake-like alien with purple skin raised one of its 6 arms. "The humans landed on 47 new worlds this year alone. That is more than our entire species has ever colonized. They build weapons we do not understand. added another alien that looked like a walking tree. Its voice was deep and slow. They keep secrets from the Galactic Coalition. Kyomin said nothing. He just sat there with his hands folded on the table. The Chancellor's metal voice got louder. Therefore, the Coalition has decided to give humanity a choice. You have 72 hours to surrender all military ships. You will place your people under our protection. We will decide which planets you may keep. More aliens spoke up, each one adding to the demands. They wanted human technology. They wanted to control human trade routes. They wanted to put Coalition officers in charge of human colonies. This is not a request, the Chancellor said. This is what will happen. The vote has been taken. All 12 species agree. The room got quiet. Everyone looked at Admiral Kyomin.
He had not moved during the entire meeting.
His face showed no fear, no anger, nothing at all. Slowly, the Admiral stood up. He was not tall compared to most of the aliens, but something about the way he moved made the room feel smaller. He brushed an invisible speck of dust off his uniform. You have been warned, he said. That was all. 4 simple words in a calm voice. The Admiral walked toward the door. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the crystal floor. No one tried to stop him. The Chancellor's voice followed him. Warned of what, human? Your entire military is 300 ships scattered across space. We have counted them. We know everything about your forces. Kyomin stopped at the door but did not turn around. Do you? He asked. Then he walked out. The aliens looked at each other with confusion. Some made nervous sounds. A few laughed, but it did not sound like they found anything funny. What could he mean? Asked the purple snake alien. Nothing, said the Chancellor. Humans are good at making empty threats. In 3 days they will surrender like children. But deep in space, far from Nexus Prime, things were already changing. Commander Haiwan stood on the bridge of a small ship called Soul's Pride. It looked like any other human cargo vessel, old, dented, and slow. The kind of ship that carried supplies between colonies and never got noticed by anyone important. A message appeared on her screen. It had only one word. Protocol 7. Haiwan's hands shook slightly as she read it. She had hoped this day would never come. For 3 years, she had played the part of a simple cargo ship captain. She had delivered food and tools to mining stations. She had complained about broken equipment and slow payments like any other merchant, but Soul's Pride was not really a cargo ship. Attention all crew, she announced, over the ship's communication system. Report to emergency stations. Prepare for quantum fold communications. Priority Alpha. Her crew of 12 moved quickly. They had been pretending to be cargo handlers and mechanics. Now they moved like the trained military officers they really were. Haiwan opened a locked panel next to her captain's chair. Inside was a control system that no cargo ship should have. Her fingers typed in a long code from memory. All across human space, hidden transmitters woke up. They had been sleeping in asteroid fields and gas clouds for decades. Some were disguised as old satellites. Others were built into space stations that everyone thought were just research posts. The signals they sent out were not normal radio messages. They traveled faster than light through folded space. In minutes, they reached every human colony, every human ship, every human outpost in the galaxy. The message was the same everywhere. The Coalition has chosen war. It is time. On the planet New Jeju, Lieutenant Hyun-woo got the signal while he was checking the power output of the geothermal plant he had been building for 2 years. The colonists thought it was just a way to get energy from the planet's hot core. They were wrong. Hyun-woo opened a hidden console in the plant's main control room. The geothermal tubes went deep into the planet, yes, but they also connected to a network of weapon emplacements that could fire into space. The entire planet was now a fortress. On 17 different Coalition worlds, humans who had lived there for years as scientists and engineers got the same message. Dr. Minho had been studying ancient ruins on the Krillian homeworld. People thought he was just interested in old art and writing, but he had really been learning how Krillian technology worked. He knew exactly how to shut down their defense systems. Engineer Su-jin worked in the biggest spaceship factory in Coalition space. For 5 years, she had been making improvements to alien warships. The aliens thought she was helping them build better engines and stronger weapons. She had actually been installing secret switches that could turn off their ships whenever humans wanted. All across the galaxy, Coalition sensors started detecting strange energy readings from human space. Military computers began sending urgent warnings to their commanders. Something big was happening in human territory. The energy signatures were unlike anything they had seen before. But the coalition leaders were not worried. They had spies watching human space. They had counted the human ships many times. Humans were weak. They would surrender when they realized how hopeless their situation was. The coalition was about to learn how wrong they could be.